Since I've returned to my hobby, I've noticed that there's been a few glow-ups in the Warhammer 40,000 universe. So this is the first in a series of a kind of a review of those upgrades those models have had. And now this was one I was very familiar with. It was one of my best friends ran orcs back in the day and used to play with Fracker quite a bit. So this guy's had an immense upgrade. He is a behemoth now. I mean, an absolute tank. Much better than the old 2D model. Looks like he ate Yarrick. I would say 9 out of 10 upgrade. Total good. So this is the Avatar of Cain, the Eldari or the Eldars, kind of big showpiece, centerpiece model. Back in the day, I owned the model on the left, in fact, the spear version, the very first version of this character. The version on the right is the current version, and it is sensationally bigger than the original. The original probably comes up to about thigh high on the piece. The styling is very similar though. The helmet's very much the same. The chest piece design is reminiscent, I guess, in the new version of the old version. It's gone through, I think this is the 4th version on the right now, but it's obviously the same design aspects taken into account. It's a really big upgrade, but because there's no real overall change, I'm going to give this one an 8 out of 10. It's still a great model though, really great. So with the new Empress Children models coming out, I thought this was a good time to do another Warhammer Glow Up review. The model on the left obviously is the Fulgrim from the 40k Epic range, and the new one on the right. The new one is just such a sensational model. I can see why I've got so many videos in my feed, but just people painting this up. I would love to myself. My God, if I was any, had an airbrush and I had any skills whatsoever, I would be all over this thing. He is gorgeous. And I've got to say, similar styling to the original. I've taken the ideas from the original model and the original, lore and stuff, and really just run with it to produce such a beautiful, beautiful thing. 10 out of 10. This is my first 10 out of 10. He is just a beautiful model, beautiful model. So another Warhammer Glow Up review, and this time will the real Marneus Calgar please stand up? The version on the left is the first version of the character. I think this was kind of a Command tent style vibe they were going for here. And the version on the right is actually the 4th version of this model. The pose is actually very, very similar to the 2nd version. But yeah, it's a bit of an upgrade. The only real way you can kind of tell that it's similar, I guess, is in the painting styles, because pretty much everything else about the model has changed. So the fact he's got white hair in the main photos is pretty much the identifying mark. It's a drastic one. To be honest, I'm going to give this one only about a 7 out of 10, purely because you can't really tell it's the same character at all. You could almost forget the left-hand side picture at all. Still a great model though, but yeah, great. Let's do another Warhammer Glow Up, seeing as we've got some new Space Wolf characters coming out. Niall Stormcaller and Ragnar Blackmane were 2 of the early models I saw and were really impressed by when I was first getting into the hobby the original time around. And I love this new Stormcaller model. It takes everything from the original model, obviously he's now in Terminator armor, and just makes it great. The Raven is there, the staff has the same detailing, even like the runic parts on his leg are now carved in instead of being embossed on top. It's great, it really is great. You can clearly see it's the same character. The cloak is even at the same strange angle, so it must be quite windy. Or at least this time I've actually got a beard blowing in the wind as well. Yeah, it is a wonderful model. I love this a lot. This is a proper 10 out of 10. You can tell it's the same character. You can tell it's a decent upgrade as well. Fantastic model, fantastic. Great job, Games Workshop, great job. Another Warhammer Glow Up review time. This time a new Logan Grimnar model, and I've got to say it is so much better than the weird Santa chariot thing they had before. But we're jumping straight in from the original version of the model straight to the new version, which only got released got announced yesterday. I like that it's kept the same sort of feel. The axe is very similar. Even like the styling on the furs are very similar. I really like though that his company crest on his leg now. That's a nice little tweak and upgrade. I mean, to be honest, I could have done anything with this model. It would have been a massive improvement over the weird chariot thing. So this is a great one. I'm really a big fan of this. Yeah, this is a big upgrade. I'm going to give this one... see, I've been giving a lot of 10 out of 10s recently, but I'm going to have to give this one another 10 out of 10 because it gives the original idea of the model, upgrades it, makes the good things about it better, and adds some new tweaks which improve it overall. So yeah, another 10 out of 10, I'm afraid. Time for another Warhammer glow up. This time we're doing Angron, the Demon Primarch of the World Eaters. We're comparing the original epic scale model against the current version that's out in 40k and the regular 40k scale. What can I say about the original epic one? It's just dawned on me as butt naked. I mean, I'm glad they didn't carry that over into the new 40k model. A very, very specific placement of that hand to cover something, I've got to say, on the left-hand side. I'm glad they just really didn't include that in the new version. I mean, the new Angron model is absolutely gorgeous. The new Primarch models are all fantastic, really, let's be honest. Maybe one is not quite so brilliant as the others. It's a personal opinion, and we'll get to it in another video. But yeah, this is a really good one. The problem is, not a lot of stuff to carry over from that very first version. So I can really only give this one an 8 out of 10, just for continuality, although that great model, the new version, is really good, I've got to say. So another Warhammer glow up. Mortarion, Primarch of the Death Guard. I have to say, out of the 4 Chaos Primarchs, this is my least favourite. I actually did run Death Guard as Chaos back in Epic 40k about 20 years ago. 15 years ago. And I actually did have Mortarion. At least he's not naked, the original model I got, I guess, unlike Angron. But the new model, I'm not the biggest fan. It's just a bit busy for me. It's very pretty, it's very detailed. It might look very much better in person, but I've only ever seen photos of it. I've never actually seen one up close. I like the posing, I like the fact it's lifted off the ground, gives the wings actually something to do. Certainly not something you could ever do with a metal model back in the day, but it's making better use of the plastics. I'm going to give it... See, I'm trying not to be negative. I'm going to give it an 8.5 out of 10. It's better than Angron's, but not great. So we're back for another Warhammer glow up review. This time we're doing the 4th and final Demon Primarch. We're doing Marneus Red of the Thousand Suns. Now, the original model is based off the Epic 40k range, and the new model is one of the more recent ones coming out. I've got to say, they have kept some of the original parts of the Epic 40k model in there. So, for example, the horns are there, they've just inverted them. It's got a loincloth, I guess, they're kind of similar, but different loincloth. The staff as well, specifically, they've taken kind of that globe part of the staff and included it in the new version. So there is kind of little tweaks and nods to it. Otherwise, they've kind of moved it away from that very cartoony style Epic 40k version of Marneus and give it a much more impressive version in the current version. So I'm going to give it a slightly higher score than Mortarion, purely because it's a much better one. I don't think it's quite as good as Fulgrim, but it's certainly a 9 out of 10. Hey everyone, so it's the first of my Age of Sigmar glow-ups. So the first one we're using here is a tech list from the Hives of Warhammer Fantasy Battle on the left. I think this one came out 3rd edition. I actually owned this one back in the day, although that sword and that staff snapped off very, very quickly. And the one on the right is the modern Age of Sigmar one. I'm not entirely sure what faction it is. You're going to have to tell me, I don't play Age of Sigmar myself. So yeah, it's the sword and the staff. The staff has changed, but it's got similar motifs. The sword is very, very similar. And obviously that kind of half-moon crescent crown part is also still present, just a lot bigger on the new model. The new model's very, very cool. And there's a series of throwbacks to the old model as well. So this is a solid 9 out of 10 because it's clearly the same model and a massive upgrade as well. Although someone is going to have to tell me what on earth that mount is, because I have no idea what that thing is at all. Definitely never had anything like that in Fantasy Battle. Great model though. I love all the Age of Sigmar. So continuing our Age of Sigmar glow up reviews. This is Gotrek. I believe he's now part of the Fire Slayers. Back when I was playing Fantasy Battle, he was just part of the regular old dwarves. So, I mean, we don't have Felix anymore, sadly, on the left. But certainly Gotrek itself, it's interesting because quite a lot has changed in the Age of Sigmar model. The axe is different. Obviously, there's a very different styling for the dwarves now, Fire Slayers, than there was for the dwarves. A lot less, shall we say, squat, and much more like just kind of small, well-built humans. Beard's different. I'm not entirely sure. Has he got the eye patch still on the new version? I can't tell. I do like the tactical part of Skaven, though. That's quite nice in the new model, and I very much do like the new model. The only snag is I think they feel like 2 different Slayers. I can only really give it maybe a 7 out of 10 on this one. I love the model though. Here's one of my Warhammer glow up reviews. This time we're doing Age of Sigmar. versus Old Fantasy Battle on the left. We're doing the Gash this time around, which is one of the old classic old Hammer models, the old clown face and the Gash. The new model for Age of Sigmar, it's got similar stuff going on with the helmet and so forth. The staff looks to be a little bit reminiscent, not exactly the same, obviously. I mean, obviously the new model is a humongous update, a humongous improvement really on the old one. As powerful as the Gash wasn't back in the day, the model really is classic for all the wrong reasons, although I do still love it so much. So I'm going to give this one an 8 out of 10 because it's clearly the same character, it's clearly a massive update. But that old model, I know, I shouldn't love it, but I just do. Even though every time it got deployed against me, I'd probably absolutely kick the crap out of my face. But yeah, great model, even the new one, brilliant. Okay, my first Tyranid-based Warhammer Glab review. We're doing the Hive Tyrant models this time round. So on the left we have the OG Hive Tyrant model, I think 3rd edition, maybe 2nd edition actually, and the modern one on the right. Interesting enough, I think this is probably the one kind of obvious race in 40k where there's a reasoning for the model updates in that evolution, biomatter being absorbed, the new species of this universe, and this galaxy, and changing the actual how the Tyranids look. Even so, they've actually gone for a very similar pose to the original model in the new version. The gun is actually very, very similar, and actually it's quite reminiscent. I mean, it's obviously a big improvement on the right. And it's got rid of that really horribly janky face. So I'm going to give this one a solid 9 out of 10. It's a good job. It's lovely. Here we are with an Age of Sigmar Glow-Up review. This time we're doing Manfred von Carstein. On the left we have the original Fantasy Battle model, and on the right we have the modern Age of Sigmar model. What you remember here is the drastic difference in stylings for the vampire models across the two lines. So we have a much more classic kind of vampire version on the left, and then the very Age of Sigmar-esque vampires on the right. That being said, the rating therefore is going to be quite low because there's not a lot of crossover between the two models. So I'm only going to give this one really a 7 out of 10. But the new model is absolutely fantastic, and I've got to say Manfred is an absolute beast in Total War. I never used to face him that often in Fantasy Battle back when I was playing it, mostly because my mate Warren used to run with Isabella and Vlad whenever he used to play it, so we never really saw Manfred that often. That being said, that new model is fantastic, although at the same time I still don't know what half these mounts are in Age of Sigmar, so you have to tell me what that is. But yeah, really lovely model, and the old one's quite classic. It's been a bit of a while since I've done a Warhammer Glow-Up review, so here is a new one. So we're doing Commander Dante from the Blood Angels in 40k, and straight up, it's an obvious, it's the same model. In fact, it's nearly the same pose, the same weapons are in the same hands. But it's clearly an upgrade. I think a lot of this is because of the Primaris upgrades. Space Marines just look a little bit better when they're just a tiny little bit larger. And so, in comparison, the old model just looks really quite compact now, whereas it just kind of looks a bit more proportionate in the new version. Plus as well, taking advantage of the fact it's now in plastic, you can kind of do crazy poses where you're standing on a tiptoe on a rock, where you definitely couldn't have done that with an old metal model. So for this one, it's got to be a 10 out of 10. It is, exactly the same feeling from both models, but the new one's just a lot better. So great model. So it's been a while since I've done one of my Warhammer Glow-Up videos, and we're going to do the Tyranid Warrior. It's the first non-character one I've done, but as you can see, they've changed quite a bit. You see the ones on the left were the ones I remember from like Advanced Space Crusade, and various different guises back in like 3rd edition, 2nd edition, I think even probably more likely. And then you've got the current Tyranid Warrior to the right. What can I say? The old one, buck-toothed, really odd layout. The legs, those still the same shape, I've got to say, that carried through. Certainly got a lot more scarier, but it's certainly still the same sort of idea, but the head got completely replaced, as did the arms. Definitely got some claws going on there. It is obviously the same kind of format, but definitely an improvement. I'm going to give this one like an 8.5 out of 10, because it is just such a big step up. You probably could head swap the new one onto the old one and get some sort of interesting mash between the two. So it's just leaked today that we're getting a new Satan Shard of the Nightbringer model for Necrons in 40k. So naturally, I've had to jump on it immediately and do a glow up video, because the old model dated from back when I used to play the game, you know, back your first time around. And actually since then, you know, we had Void Dragon come out, and the Void Dragon was always a very cool model regardless, and it's still very, very cool, and they finally brought the Nightbringer into that kind of level of work. It's not too dissimilar, to be fair. It's just posed a lot better with a lot finer detail by the looks of things. I mean, a lot of it, because we haven't seen a great deal of photos of it yet. A couple of scanned magazine pages and then this box art. But yeah, it's coming soon. It's a big upgrade. It looks to be about the same size as Void Dragon is. And it's going to be fully plastic rather than the current stuff. So yeah, awesome model. I'm going to give it a 9 out of 10 because I just really love a new model. Fantastic. So we just found out the Ultramarine is getting some more love as Marneus Calgar is coming back with a new model. And this is the first time I've had to do a Warhammer Glow Ups video where I've already done the guy before. So yeah, if you go back through my grid, there's a Marneus Calgar Glow Up video where I compare the previous version to the first edition. And that was the sitting one, and I kind of joked that he just stood up. So we're not going to do the first edition version again. The one on the left here is the second edition version, which actually is much, much more similar to the current version, and actually all the versions that came ever since the second version. So similar shoulder pads, very similar kind of rope detail across the chest. In fact, it's just a massive upgrade to the original design, really, sticking him in obviously better armour, and just kind of giving all the other details there a big upgrade. It's kind of like an artist just having a different view of the same character, really. So it's a good 9 out of 10. It's a nice upgrade, and very similar to the original. Second, that is. Alright, another Warhammer Glow Up video. And this time we're doing St. Celestine from the Sisters of Battle, or the Adeptus Sororitas. On the left we have the original version, and on the right we have the current modern version. As you can see, distinctive differences here. The method of flight, based on the left version, the original idea was that she was kind of flying by faith alone. On the right, she's now got a winged jump pack. Obviously, the wings are beautiful, and especially the colour schemes being used in the two different examples. The version on the right is much nicer to look at than the one on the left. It's very much an old heavy metal style painting, and it's just a bit clunky. But yeah, I think the new Celestine model, the current one, is just an absolutely stunning model. It's kind of a standout piece for the entire range, I feel, for the Sisters of Battle. So yeah, this is a 8 to 9 out of 10 really upgrade, I think. Really beautiful model here. Welcome to another Warhammer Glow Up review. Now, we've got a new Titus model after last night's Warhammer preview. We've now got no longer Lieutenant Titus, we've now got Captain Titus of the second company of the Ultramarines. And now, the difference between this and a normal Glow Up review is that it's not intended to be the same point in the story. So, you know, we're not expecting things to be exactly the same, and he has got a glorious new set of gear, but doesn't match the original Lieutenant model whatsoever, apart from, you know, bolter, chainsword. They're different designs. They might be the same ones, they've certainly had some sort of upgrade, and certainly that armour is not even remotely the same. But it is a beautiful model, and the set is, all the models in the set are astounding. I would like to say 10 out of 10, but based on my own rules, I've got to give us a 9 out of 10 because, you know, it is a significant number of differences, but it is a beautiful model. I like it. He's bright red. He appears on Christmas Day, and no, it's not Santa. It's a new Huron Blackheart model. So this was the 25th day of Grotmas, the actual miniature release that we've been long waiting for. Up until now, it had all been kind of stories and army lists and stuff like that. Nothing kind of actually new model wise. So it's good to see a new one coming out, especially one that's replacing an old Finecast model, which I have to say, as an old Chaos Space Marine player, I thought the original model was one of the ugliest Space Marine models I've ever seen. It's just all proportions are wrong. It's just horrible. The new one, much nicer. He's got a bit of a cartoonish smile on him, but hopefully we'll hear a story about that. I mean, I guess that's what happens when you get fired in the face with a melter gun, so that might be the result of that. Certainly it's wonderful to see him back. All the elements are there, the axe, his little pet, who I think of the name of, the very distinctive Foul Claw. It's a really nice model. Because the original model is so ugly, it's got to be a 9.5 out of 10.